Ed.
Jay, you've been citing Undersecretary Kennedy and what he's saying in public today. Congressional sources have said that on September 12th, the day after the attacks, Undersecretary Kennedy did a conference call with congressional staffers and others, day after the attacks, and said then this was not a protest, this was not a spontaneous reaction to the anti-Muslim video, that this was a coordinated attack. And so my question is, that was 4 days before Ambassador Rice went out on television, 5 shows, and said that we believe that it is reaction. Did you, and others mislead the public because you didn't want to admit there was a terror attack?
Absolutely not. The President of the United States referred to it as an act of terror immediately after it occurred, Ed, as you know. 2, Pat Kennedy, the Undersecretary of State for Management, is testifying in public today. So I would look to what he says before your cameras and the American people, rather than what congressional sources, whoever they may be telling you.
But one second. On September, if you're citing that on September 12th, the president called it terrorism. He used a phrase like act of terror.
Act of terror.
No of act of terror. Well, then why were you at this podium for several days after that saying we don't know if it's terrorism? If you're now
I never
saying
said that. I never said we don't know if it's terrorism. There is an issue about the definition of terrorism. This is by definition an act of terror, as the president made clear. What we were talking about is what
on September 12th, the president believed it was terrorism?
He said it was an act of terror, Ed. Okay. It was clearly, definitionally, if you look at the definition of terrorism, an assault with arms on an diplomatic...
Several days after that, is it terrorism? He kept saying we don't know. How can you revise that?
I checked the transcript. The issue was what led to the attack. And that has been an issue that we have provided assessments of based on the information that we have gleaned through the intelligence community, preliminary information. And we have made clear all along, as Ambassador Rice has made clear, the parts of these clips, what I'm sure don't always appear on some air, where she makes clear on Sunday, September 16th, that these were preliminary assessments based on preliminary information.
The president said it was terror.
You're making a distinction between an act of terror and what led to the attack. An assault with violence and force and weapons against a diplomatic facility is by definition an act of terror.
So let me ask you then, since it's been noted that tomorrow will be the 1-month anniversary of this terror attack, why hasn't the president given a speech or a news conference laying out to the American people sort of the aftermath of what was a terror attack, 4 Americans killed? Instead, the Republicans have been hitting him for talking about Big Bird several days out on a campaign trail. He doesn't talk about this act of terror when he goes out and visits and talks with voters. Why won't he talk about it?
Actually, Ed, I believe he's spoken on a number of occasions about this, both in interviews and when he went to Andrews to receive, with Secretary of State Clinton and the families of the 4 fallen Americans, those caskets from Libya. And he spoke very clearly and poignantly about the sacrifice that they made, the risks that they took on behalf of the American people, and the interests that we have abroad in places like Libya, and of his absolute commitment to ensure that those who are responsible be brought to justice. His absolute commitment that we do whatever we can to ensure that what happened in Benghazi does not happen again. So I do not agree with your assessment that he hasn't been talking about this. It is also the case that there is a campaign going on, and he is out there, just like his opponent, talking about a variety of issues that are of interest to the American people. But he has spoken about the events in Benghazi on a number of occasions, and you can be sure he'll be speaking about them in the future.
The last thing,